Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Lisa Andermann, and together with my co-chair, Dr. Meng-Chuan, we are very thankful to you all for being here this morning. Thankful to all of our council members from the Advisory Council for Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, Indigeneity, and Accessibility in Clinical Care of the Department of Psychiatry at University of Toronto, and very pleased to welcome you to our 2023 Advocacy Day this morning. This is actually a revival of an education day that used to exist in our department between 2013 and 2019, and we are all very excited to see it back again. I'd like to thank all of our council members that helped in the planning of this event, together with Danica Kwong, our strategic plan coordinator, and Ben Gain from communications in our department to help pull this all together. And this is an important opportunity for faculty and learners in our department and beyond in community mental health to come together to learn and discuss topics facing mental health today, and most importantly, how to make change for those who need it most. And our learning objectives for today are to identify key steps in building a social accountability program to improve clinical care, to be able to describe components of successful advocacy projects, and to examine and discuss lessons learned around EDIIA in action, including challenges and successes. And now we'll start with a land acknowledgement with some credit to the 519, which had a very thought-provoking version on their website that I would like to share with you. But first, the U of T side. We wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. As we gather today, these nations continue to experience ongoing colonization and displacement, where land acknowledgements are offered in place of land itself. This territory is part of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum, a treaty made between the Anishinaabe Mississaugas and Haudenosaunee, where nations entered into an agreement to protect the land and responsibly care for its resources in harmony together. As settlers, newcomers, refugees, and Indigenous peoples, we have all been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We are also mindful of broken treaties that persist across Turtle Island today and recognize our responsibilities to engage in a meaningful, continuous process of truth and reconciliation. We remember those who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. This city was built on stolen land and stolen labor of Black, Indigenous, and racialized people. What we now refer to as Canada was also built on the labor of many immigrant and migrant communities. From the Transcontinental Railway to farming and food production, the country heavily relied and continues to on the talent, skill, and hard work of racialized people. In exchange, many of them are denied residence, and they continue to go through punishing immigration experiences and perpetuating racial disparities. Acknowledging traditional Indigenous territories is just one way to recognize contemporary and historical Indigenous presence and land rights. It is a small step towards dismantling the continued impacts of colonialism and undoing Indigenous erasure in our everyday lives. So for more information on the purpose of land acknowledgements, you can check out native-land.ca. So just a few housekeeping notes. We are hoping to have a lot of discussion, as much as interactivity as Zoom allows. So please put your questions in the Q&A for speakers. We will have the option for people to raise their hands and ask a question out loud, or we can read it out for you, whichever you prefer. Another important change I need to let you know about is that due to urgent arising advocacy work this morning, one of our keynote speakers, Angela Robertson, is not able to be with us this morning for her keynote or for the panel. And she had an important last-minute meeting. She sincerely apologizes, but we hope to have her back another time, maybe next year. And hopefully this will also give us a little bit more time for discussion and reflection. And now I would like to invite Dr. Benoit Mulsant, the chair of the Department of Psychiatry, to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Andermann, and good morning to all. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this Advocacy Day. And today's event is an opportunity to explore how we can take action to make clinical care more equitable and effectively advocate for diversity and inclusion in various communities. As care provider, we cannot claim to be fulfilling our duties unless we work to ensure care is available to everyone equally. Psychiatrists and all those who care for the mental health of our communities have an important role to play as advocates. CanMeds identify advocacy as a key professional role for psychiatrists that is essential for the effective care of patients. With our expertise and experience, we are especially equipped to advocate for those experiencing mental illness and addiction. This includes many individuals who need support and resource, but whom society is quickest to marginalize and ignore. In our department, we are dedicated to supporting our faculty member and learner as they work to improve equity, diversity, inclusion, indigeneity, and accessibility, or EDIIA. Implicit bias training is now mandatory for all our clinical faculty. We have created a new leadership position, Vice Chair of Mental Health and Addiction Equity and EDIIA, which will begin in September 2023. With Mindfest Advocacy Day, Advocacy Day is a key part of those efforts. We hope that the conversations today will spark ideas for advocacy projects you can carry out in your own communities and better equip you to promote inclusion and diversity. We're excited to be hosting presentation by leader in advocacy in clinical setting whose insights promise to be not just informative, but also inspirational. Before we begin, I wish to thank Mr. Andrew Pakula and the Dr. Sofia Pakula Social Justice Fund for supporting today's event. It's an honor to continue Dr. Sofia Pakula's legacy of courage and compassion in the face of adversity, whether defying Nazi oppression and violence as a young woman in Poland or providing care to her patient as a physician. Dr. Pakula never ceased to advocate for the well-being of those around her. You can learn more about Dr. Pakula's life on the department website. Thank you again for joining us today. I will now pass the virtual mic to the co-chair of the Advocacy Council for EDIIA in Clinical Care, Dr. Meng-Chuan.